Hello guys, it's Chumthrid here doing the Beyblade discussion, and today I want to ask the question, has UX improved? So, early on during UX, I had some questions about it. I thought it was interesting, but I just didn't feel like it really needed to be a separate line from BX. I thought that it felt like the changes they made, like the gear chip being stationary, no gear chip cover, things like that. It felt like they were forced changes just to make them seem different, and they weren't really act like that much different than a BX Bay. So now that UX has been out for quite a while, a solid 8 months, have they gotten better? Now, before I say anything else, this is not talking about competitive at all. I don't care about competitive. This is purely based on the actual design of the bays, not really much physical design, just more conceptual design of the bays, just to see, have they gotten better? So, first up, the BX UX divide. This is kind of where I want to talk about and highlight my initial problem with these bays. So here we have two bays here, Drawn Buster and Whale Wave. A UX bay and a BX bay. So to start with Drawn Buster, it of course has a gimmick to where whole idea is you want to hit with this main contact point. It has one specific contact point, so it's meant for like a big impact. You of course have a short ratchet because you generally want that for attack, well, most of the time. Also, it is one-sided to help to pair with that idea of attack. And also, Excel, it's a flat, which makes sense, but you have 16 gears. This is important because the extreme line also is kind of one big attack, and when you kind of put those two together, well, obviously having a better extreme dash, well, a more powerful one, paired with this gimmick here, well, it all kind of works well together. However, take a look at Whale Wave, a BX bay. You have 5 contact points, but they are meant to kind of have this like down smash attack here, right? It's meant to force the base to, go downward when it hits. That's just how the blade is designed. So in order to achieve that, well, the ratchet, again, 5-sided, which pairs well with the, blade, and it's also tall. An instance where, yes, you would want to be taller to attack, since it is meant to, have these downward contact points. And then you have the elevate bit. This bit is interesting because you have this sort of disc, and also the actual gears here are curved. The curved gears and this disc are meant to help to kind of bring the bay off of the stadium a little bit during an extreme dash, so when it leaves the extreme rail, it is kind of up in the air a little bit, and then as it goes through the bay, it dips down a little bit. So you get a little bit of, force from it, actually moving physically downwards while also having these contact points. Generally speaking, these have a very similar idea behind them. Well, yes, they're different for sure, but the way they kind of all work out, the way they have, specific blade ideas with ratchets that pair well with them, and then bits that further enhance their ideas. These two are functionally different, but conceptually, they're honestly really similar. Now, you could argue and say, oh, well, is this like a one-off case for a BX bay? Maybe, this one just happens to be better than normal. Well, we could take a look at something like Crimson Garuda. This one has, 470, which works because, it has a height thing going on, so 70, generally a good ratchet for height gimmicks. 4-sided matches pretty well with the blade. But yeah, the blade, you kind of have these upwards slopes on the blade, and also some that kind of go downward, so you have different heights covered there. That's because of transpoint. Transpoint, when you extreme dash, it's meant to go from low to high. So it changes modes. It is a mode-changing bit, which is a pretty big deal, I think. And now again, you could just say, oh, well, this is a newer one. You could say this and Whale Wave, they shouldn't count because they came out more recently. They came out after UX existed. Maybe they're just pulling a little bit from UX. Okay, fair enough. But what about these bays? These two came out before UX even existed, Leon Claw and Hell's Chain. Leon Claw, this has a gimmick to where, okay, the outside here is meant to be more defensive, bulky, but if it tilts, you have kind of these points that are meant for attack. You have 560, again, 5 pairs well. 60 is a low height, which makes sense because obviously you want to be lower to utilize these upper parts here. And then point. Being stationary, we have a ball here, so you can be stationary, which makes sense with the whole, defense idea. But if you tilt, you kind of become more attack-oriented. And if you're tilted, well, that gives you better, means to use these top parts here. Again, this bay just has an idea behind it that works. Also, Hell's Chain is the same way. Hell's Chain has these different chains, and they are different sort of heights. They're meant to get, an attack at different heights and elevations. Alright, well, you have 560, which this is before, 7 hits came out, but you have high taper, so, again, it makes it kind of a middle height. The first time we really saw something like that, and also, yeah, 5-sided, pairs with the blade. Yeah, that works. So this has its own identity to it. And that's the thing, a lot of these BX bays, they have their own identity. When you look at the other two, starting UX bays with Hell's Chain and Wizard Rod, Hell's Chain kind of, again, has these, downward attacks going on. 370 to be a little bit taller. Hexa, and this kind of just exists, honestly, but... Alright, and then you have Wizard Rod. Kind of an outward weight distribute, well, obviously, as all UX bays do, it has more outward weight distribution, but again, that works well for Stamp type. Also, it is very round, also larger than average. 570 pairs well with a disc ball. Again, just works with the whole idea here. Yeah, I mean, these, I feel like, yes, the UX bays had their own ideas, but as you could see, BX bays did as well, yes. Overall, do UX bays, I think, have more specific ideas than an average BX bay? Yes. But a lot of BX bays still could do it, and that makes you wonder, was a divide necessary? So let's kind of move on to some of the more recent UX bays that I did not cover in that initial UX first impressions video. So first up, we have Shinobi Shadow. This has to be one of the worst examples, but whole idea was the shape was meant to kind of parry bays, has this interesting round shape. Kind of meant to repel and deflect bays, but then you have 180, which, I mean, that doesn't work well. Metal Needle. Yes, this is, I think this is worse conceptually than all of the other BX bays I've showed, so we're not going to talk about this one. But let's get to more recent examples. Let's pull Leon Crest. So Leon Crest, you have kind of this wall-like, blade with a wall-like ratchet. You got Gear Needle, which you get a little bit of counterattack going, referencing the original Leon. That's fine. But okay, you have a solid gimmick here. It's a wall. It definitely has a more unique shape than any BX base. I can at least give it that. But conceptually, is it overly distinct from what a BX bay could do? Not really. And then you have Phoenix Rudder. I don't like this thing very much, but it's meant to be good for stamina, a little bit of, I guess, counter attack, so to speak. And, again, referencing the original Phoenix. Okay, sure. 970, pairs fine. Glide, POM. Different material. Yes, of course, you also had metal on, Shinobi Shadow's bit with Metal Needle. So, yeah, different materials on the bits. That's, I guess, unique. Sure. I mean, it's something, but again, are these doing enough? No. So I don't think there really, until this point, was a great divide between BX and UX. However, starting with Silverwolf, we began to see more gimmicks. So, I mean, obviously a free ball, which, just can turn much easier, kind of gives a free spin element to it, but the blade, this underneath plastic part here, it spins. Now, this is interesting, because we actually have never had a BX bay have any moving parts on its blade. So this is definitely something that is new to UX. It's, UX specific. And this isn't the only one. We also have Samurai Saber. So, again, interesting parts, but, yeah, you have these blades here that move around. They kind of do their own thing during battle. I mean, it's not crazy, but hey, it's something. And then you also have probably one of the most unique ones here, and that is Night Mail. So Night Mail. Well, 385, this ratchet is unlike any other ratchet we have. Of course, you have Bounce Spike, which kind of has this thing where this part here pushes the bit out a little bit, so it can kind of have a shock absorption type thing. And also, yeah, you have these metal balls that they move up and down, which is meant to kind of help the bay, for defense, but also if it gets hit around, help it to kind of recover back onto the stadium, along with bounce spike to help with shock absorption. So, hey, these are ideas. UX actually has some real gimmicks now. And one of the biggest problems that I had is that I said even if UX were to become more dynamic and interesting, I was worried that BX bays would end up kind of getting left in the dust and not seeming overly interesting. This is something I said back in like April, because keep in mind back then, we only knew releases up until September, and at that point it seemed like BX bays were kind of still a little bit more prominent than UX bays. However, knowing the releases up until, well, May of next year at this point, UX is definitely taking over. And we also have CX coming up in March. So CX will be taking, I guess becoming like the new big thing. UX will still be around, and being very frequent. But BX is getting phased out. So I think that's fine. I already made a whole discussion on if I thought, BX was going away. It was pretty recent, actually. I think it was the start of this month. But UX is taking over. So I think now, yes, it is fine to see UX kind of moving on to get a little bit better, more interesting. I don't want to see it get better competitively, but again, this isn't for competitive, but yes, I think it's fair to have UX become more dynamic now because, well, the X bays are kind of seeming like they're taking a backseat. So I think overall, yes, this is good. And yeah, obviously a UX takeover with kind of getting more blade gimmicks that we did not get on BX bays, I think is a good thing. So that kind of leads to the kind of verdict here of, has UX actually improved? And I think the answer to that is, of course, yes, because these bays, despite definitely taking a while, I think once you introduced, actual blade gimmicks, actually, let's show off those in this final shot here, but once we started to get, actual, blade gimmicks, I think that then you're at a point where it's like, okay, these are clearly more dynamic than the average BX bay. So that is really nice to see. So yes, it took them a while, but I do think they've improved because of that. However, was this necessary? This is, again, a big thing I talked about in the original UX discussion. Was this necessary? I'm still thinking no. Well, yes, UX bays have become more interesting. They have blade gimmicks now. But when you look at things like, Whale Wave, this could have easily been a UX bay, I feel. And again, I don't think it takes much to just throw a little bit of extra stuff onto a BX bay. Again, obviously you need to change the molding here, but could these, hypothetically, like on, Crimson Garuda, could these parts here, these two wings, could they have been moving like Samurai Saber? Obviously, yes, they could have. Yeah, you'd have to change up the mold. Yes, it doesn't make sense with the idea of Crimson Garuda, but hypothetically speaking, could you have done something like that if you wanted? Yes. I don't think UX makes much sense in the sense of, well, existing. I don't think they did enough here. I think it was a little bit too similar. It feels very forced. Because, again, you could just add gimmicks onto literally anything, and I do think, yeah, just having, okay, gear chips are stationary, no gear chip covers, okay, you got the prongs are plastic now, and the metal's meant to be more, outward weight distribution. I think, yeah, cool. Didn't need to happen. I think BX itself could have just been the base system that all of these things kind of coalesce into. I don't think there was a need to divide them personally. Now we'll see about CX. CX might be different, but I still don't believe that UX needed to actually exist. However, with that said, because it does exist, because the idea behind it was to make them more unique, which I don't think they really did a great job at, but again, it kind of, was weird because you don't want to eclipse BX when BX was still a big thing. But then again, why does UX even exist? I think now, yes, UX bays have improved enough to where I can say, yeah, they're good. And they definitely do stand out much more with the, the blade gimmicks. But did these bays themselves need to exist with a different style and stuff? Could they have just been applied to BX bays? Because again, BX bays are still fairly interesting. Look at some of the recent ones. Then yeah, it's a bit more questionable. But overall, I'm glad to see that UX is better, since obviously, it does exist, so there's nothing to really be done about that. So It's going to exist, make it interesting, and it took them a while, but yeah, I do think it has improved finally, and looking forward to see more UX releases. We'll still get plenty of them even after CX is out, but again, we'll have to talk about CX. I might make a discussion on that in the next few weeks or something, but for now, yes, I do think UX has improved overall, regardless of anything else about it. So anyways, that's all for this video, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.